Lesson 7 Rendering Lists. You will often want to display multiple similar components from a collection of data. You can use the JavaScript array methods to manipulate an array of data. On this page, you'll use filter and map with React to filter and transform your array of data into an array of components. 1. Introduction. In many cases, when we build interfaces in React, we need to show several similar components, for example, a list of comments, a gallery of images, or a collection of names and descriptions. To achieve this, we can take advantage of JavaScript's array methods, especially filter and map, to transform arrays of data into arrays of React components. 2. Rendering data from arrays. Imagine you have a list of people with their professions. Each list item is basically the same structure. The only thing that changes is the data inside it. When building interfaces, it's much more efficient to store the data in an array or in objects, and then use JavaScript methods to render the list dynamically. Here's the logic. You move your data into an array, and then you use the map method to transform each item in that array into a React element. The map method creates a new array, where every original data element is represented as a component. Finally, you return that new array of components as part of your user interface. When you do this, React will display all the list elements on the page. However, you'll notice a console warning telling you that each child in a list should have a unique key property. This is an important concept that we'll revisit later. 3. Filtering arrays of items. We can structure the data even further by using objects. Suppose now that each person in the list has more structured information, for instance, an identifier, a name, and a profession. If you want to display only people with a specific profession, such as chemist, you can use the filter method. The filter method takes an array and applies a test function to every item. That function returns true for the elements you want to keep and false for the ones you want to exclude. The result is a new array that only contains the items that passed the test. Once you have filtered your array, you can then use map again to transform that subset of data into visual components. In this case, you might show the person's image, their name in bold, their profession, and what they are known for. When your component returns this new list, React will render it dynamically. Again, you may notice that the console still warns you about missing keys. We'll fix that next. 4. Keeping list items in order with key. React uses keys to keep track of each element in a list. Every child in an array should have a unique key. This can be a string or a number. Keys tell React how to identify each component among its siblings. This becomes crucial when the list changes. For example, if items are added, removed, or reordered. A stable key allows React to correctly match up each item and update the interface efficiently without rebuilding everything. The best practice is to have stable identifiers in your data, such as IDs. You should avoid generating keys randomly or using the array index, because that can lead to subtle bugs and performance issues when items move around or change. Think of it this way: keys work like file names on your computer. If files didn't have names and you referred to them only by their position, first file, second file, third file, deleting or reordering them would become confusing. Keys give React a reliable way to know which element is which, even if the list changes over time. Also note that keys are not passed to your components as props. React uses them internally for tracking. If your component needs an identifier, you have to pass it explicitly as another prop. 5. Pitfalls and best practices. When using arrow functions, it's important to understand that if you omit the curly braces, the expression immediately after the arrow is returned automatically. This is called an implicit return. However, once you use curly braces to define a block of code, you must write the word return explicitly. Otherwise, nothing will be returned, and your list won't render. As for keys, Remember these rules. Keys must be unique among siblings. Keys should remain stable over time. Don't generate them dynamically on each render. Avoid using array indexes or random numbers as keys. These practices ensure that React can correctly update and maintain your user interface, even when data changes frequently. 6. Recap. Let's summarize what we've learned. You can move your data out of components and into arrays or objects to make your code cleaner and more reusable. The map method allows you to create sets of similar components from your data. The filter method helps you select only the items that match specific criteria. The key property ensures that React can track each item individually, even if their order or data changes. By understanding how to render lists efficiently, filter data, and manage keys properly, you're building the foundation for creating dynamic, scalable, and maintainable React interfaces.